You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Extreme Weight Loss After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Extreme Weight Loss After Show.
Lina loves this
I waited
song.
for you to twerk. I was waiting.
I don't know if everybody can see me.
Okay.
There's only so much you can do while sitting down. Welcome, everybody, to Season 3, Episode 9 of Extreme Weight Loss. For those of you that might be joining us for the first time, my name is Lauren Mendoza, and I'm joined by
Lina Green.
the beautiful Lina Green.
Beautiful Lauren.
I love this song. This is the new Miley
so you can
Cyrus song.
twerk to it. I just
know
found
it.
out what twerking was, so I'm using that word as much as possible.
Oh, fantastic. So this episode, a pretty emotional episode, we meet Alyssa, who's 22 years old. And you guys want to stay with us this entire episode because we actually have Alyssa calling in later today in probably about 30 minutes or so. 30 minutes. So it'll be really exciting. So let's get into her episode. Like I said, she's 22 years old. And right away, we learn about when she actually started to struggle with food. Because she was like an active kid, super close with her mother, and then at 10 years old was actually in the car with her mom and her sister a half mile from their house when they got into an accident that her mother ended up dying.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, was her mom wearing a seatbelt? Because she ended up flying.
She ended up coming out of the
car.
I don't know.
It's amazing that Alyssa lived and her sister lived.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know. They crashed into a tree. And it was just, when she went back to the site of this accident, it was so sad because she points out the very tree that their car hit and how she mentions that it was at one point standing upright, but now you could see that
Over
the
time,
tree is just kind of curved over to the side. And it's just sad because she still lives in that area.
A half mile away.
Yeah.
Which is significant for later what comes up.
That's right, when she first starts her journey. So she, talks about losing her mom. And even to this day, 12 years later, it still brings her to tears when she talks about losing her mom, which I can't even imagine.
Especially being so close to her mom as she was.
Oh, yeah. She said her mom was her rock and just everything. And I can't, it was very hard to watch.
Very emotional.
It was very emotional. And her dad was so cute. And seeing him kind of broke my heart a bit because, he talks about, what do you do when your kid wakes up in the middle of the night crying for their mother and you can't do anything?
When he said that, literally made me cry. He's like, let's go to the movies. Yeah, let's go to the movies. Let's go eat dinner. Just anything to try to take their mind out.
Keep them happy. Like, all he wants is for his kids to be happy. And he just seems like such a genuine father. I loved him. I mean, I know we didn't see a lot of him in the episode, but you could just tell he was a really caring, loving father that sticks by his daughters and just wanted the best for her.
And I kind of feel like he was helpless to, help the situation with her, gaining weight and spiraling out of control.
And I mean, as a parent, all you could do is be there for them. Yeah. And especially when this situation, she talks about, after her mom passing at the funeral, there just being tons and tons of food, and it just kind of
happened.
She just started
for a month, though. I didn't know for a month people were but it's a small town, so of course there's going to be more of that community of people gathering and coming over all the time, trying to make sure you're okay.
Yeah. So it was just hard. was just a hard story to watch. And she even said, as she was looking in the mirror, that she feels like the real her is just kind of underneath it all, and that her mom, she feels guilty about, you know, where she's at right now, because she feels like her mom can't really rest, like her mom's really looking over her and can't be at peace until she's okay.
And I think that was one of the underlying things for her, like the guilt. There was so much guilt. She was like, I know I shouldn't be this way. I can't. This was 12 years ago. And I love that she says that. Like, I know that I need to, you know, get stronger. That's 12 years ago. I can't let this hold me back. I love that she realizes that and wants to go forward.
Oh, yeah. She definitely seemed very sincere in her desire to just put this all behind her and kind of get her life on track and take it into her own hands. So we see her at work. She's like a call operator. I don't know how.
She works for an insurance company or marketing. I think it was insurance.
Basically, she takes like customer service phone calls. And so we see her at her desk, and she talks about at her workplace that they order, she said 47 dozen donuts.
That's ridiculous.
That's insane.
Was that
an exaggeration? That's a lot.
I mean, they showed the donuts. That's a ridiculous amount of donuts, especially most of them are going wasted. Like she was saying, most of them just sat up there, and she went and got like 4 or 5 of them throughout the day.
I think that's like an entirely other issue that we could totally dive into, is like how, you know, at the workplace, we're also tempted by all these foods. So when I saw that, I was like, I get it. Like,
and it's the workplaces where you're sitting down the most, where they want to bring in all this food. Because I've worked at a call center before, like when I was in college, and they always had food days. It was like a reward because you're sitting here for hours and you're bored out of your mind.
You're never moving, and we're going to feed you donuts. It's like, let's change up the mentality here. That's my thoughts.
Some carrots or celery in here, like something
Nobody thinks that's fun. What if you go for like group walks or do like meeting?
That could be fun. Make some group walks. That'd be fun with your coworkers.
We could get into an entirely other show. But that was one thing that's, you know, it was kind of shocking to see how many donuts they had, and you can understand how she would be tempted. Anybody would be. So
and that's not including, like, that's just something that's not her breakfast.
No.
That's just something she'll have at work for like in between snack.
Yeah, it was bad. So I thought it was hysterical because Chris calls her, and she is so cute in like her operator voice. I could definitely help you with that.
Hello, what is your name? It's funny.
And he spells out his last name, and she totally didn't even get it. She's like, okay, great. What can I help you with? And then he peeks up and, you know, tells her, I choose you. And then she gets it. And it was so funny because even she pointed out how she didn't even notice.
Did Chris seem a little bit insulted, like, this is Chris Powell?
I don't think he seemed insulted. I think he thought it was probably funny that she just, you know, she's doing this. She's doing this day to day. She gets all these phone calls. Is that going to jump out to her? You know, it could be Brad Pitt or something she might not even know.
He was like Chris Powell.
Yeah. So that's how she learns, and he takes her out, and she's so excited. We see her before we even get to the first weigh-in, like you said, getting back to the whole half mile. He talks about how that half mile from, you know, Alyssa's home to where she lost her mother is so symbolic in the beginning of like her struggle with weight.
Yeah, and her journey going forward.
And so he makes her run a half mile.
In her work clothes too. I noticed that. So sticky and like I hate that.
She's in a cardigan.
I felt bad. I was like, that makes me feel like blue jeans. I couldn't imagine running in blue jeans.
Well, I think she put on different pants. I think she had pants and different shoes.
Okay.
Because I noticed that too.
It was, yeah.
Either way, he basically makes her run that last half mile to her first weigh-in and says, this is the beginning of your new life.
I love that.
You know, that half mile to where you lost your mom, you know, that was kind of the end of an era for you and a downward, you know, spiral, I guess. So this is kind of the new beginning.
And that was hard for her because she hasn't ran or even worked out in like 12 years. I mean, she said that. So that her lungs were burning at that point. She had to push her way through it, which we'll see a lot of that.
Yeah, she weighs in at her first weigh-in at 414 pounds.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's a tough number. I mean, yeah, that's hard. So
at 22.
At 22.
22.
That's a long journey. You have a long journey ahead of you, I think, when I see that number.
Yeah.
So one of the best parts is when Chris brings her home. I mean, we see her do some workout. We see her climbing the dunes. We see her, you know, doing a lot and getting started with Chris. And she has a lot of emotional breakdowns, which is so natural. And we see this with every person that comes on the show, where in those first workouts, they really just kind of the walls come down.
They want to break down and stuff. And about the dunes one, this is where she goes up the sand mountain. That was tragic in itself, where she wants to, and then, you know what, I'm so proud of her. She didn't quit. Like there were moments where you're thinking, okay, she's gonna break down. She can't go any further. She's like, my body won't go. And she just pushes through. And I love that about Alyssa. That's something that really made me connect with her and say, you know, this is a fighter, and she came out fighting. So I love that she pushed through that. That was hard. Going up a mountain, that's like hiking.
Running on sand level
it's hard.
A struggle.
That was
to go upwards. Is
Chris
not
is starting
easy.
to get crazy with these tasks that he's having people do. Starting to get a little.
He's pushing them for sure, but she did it, and it was amazing. Well, then we see him take her home, as we always do. They have this new home gym, which is always fantastic. But one of the best things was he also gave her a little pool where they had all these like contraptions.
Amazing pool. What is it, a water?
It was like I don't know, like a whirlpool kind of thing where there's jets so that it can add resistance if she was going to run in place. But it was interesting because they had these contraptions and harnesses that would keep her in one spot so she could be fighting the resistance. And she did a lot of her like first 90 days of working out in that pool. And she talks about, I guess, how it was with her mother that she kind of got into swimming. So naturally, I think this was just a form of exercise that she really enjoyed.
Yeah. And what's another thing that's amazing about this episode, too, the whole community. You see a lot of the community involvement. They came out and the whole house got a makeover. Yeah. Like from the outside to the kitchen. Like they've never done that before, which I wonder if this is going to start a trend.
Or they've never showed it before.
Well, he said that. He said this is the first time they've ever, like he did a room, the gym, the outside, the pool. Kitchen, but the whole community came and pitched in. So maybe, I don't know if it'll be a trend for future episodes, but who knows?
I don't know.
It was nice though. Oh, she was like, her whole house got made over. That's enough
maybe
right there.
Maybe they did that too, you know, for her dad.
Yeah.
That's a nice gift to her dad, too. So
it
was very cute. I know. I love her dad. Her dad seems so nice. So in this first 90 days, we also see Alyssa kind of struggling with like morning sickness in a sense. Like she's, you know, I mean, a lot of people when they're working out for the first time and they're working out that intensely, they tend to vomit. And we see this happening with her over and over again. And Chris Powell tells her, this is your body trying to cleanse itself. You know, that's why you're purging. It's trying to really detox
rid
in a
itself
sense
of all the horrible foods that she had been eating up to now. That's crazy. That your body is actually telling you. Like if you listen to your body, her body's actually telling this toxicity.
Get this out of me, basically.
Get it out of me.
Yeah. So Chris, to kind of prove what can happen to your body, he says, you know what, for a day, I'm going to eat what you would typically eat. Which I thought was a bad idea right away. So
I felt like it was that McDonald's documentary.
Oh yeah. What's that called?
He must have
Supersize Me.
Good one, Marissa. Thank you.
Supersize me.
It's like the voices from the heavens.
That come from my head.
My head just said that, exactly.
No, he looked horrible. When they did a close-up on him, when he was like
all pale,
getting sick.
Yeah, it was nasty.
He's never looked that way before.
He looked sweaty and gross.
He was sweating just from eating.
Yeah. Well, basically, they started off with 2 hash browns, I think 2 breakfast sandwiches, and soda. And then she goes and has 2 donuts on top of that. She was already over, just with all of that, over 1,700 calories.
That's ridiculous.
And that was like at 10:30 or something.
That's what I was counting those hours too. Yeah. And then lunch came like 2 hours later.
Lunch came, and then it was a large fries with 20-piece chicken nuggets and a large soda. So already at that point, after lunch at 12:30, was over 3,000 calories for one day.
I think Chris.
That's already a pound. Like, well, 3,500 is a pound.
Yeah,
so
that was
at dinner or at a snack, and she's gaining a pound a day for however long she's eating that meal.
I mean, his breakfast, what she eats for breakfast was equivalent to what the healthy meal that he was making her eat for her lunch, dinner, and her breakfast.
Right.
all those calories were the same equivalents. And Chris couldn't even finish like the 20. I think he ate like 6 chicken nuggets before he started puking.
Oh, it was so bad. Yeah, he started puking, and then he gave up and said, you know what, I can't do this for the rest of the day. Oh. And you know what? He felt it the next day, and I think that is so true. I think when we get in the habit of eating these foods, I don't think we realize how much they weigh us down. Like, if we're tired later in the day, it could be due to what we ate. If you feel lazy the next morning, it could be because of what you ate the day before. And I don't think, you know, if you're not in the habit of eating healthy, you don't realize how much better you could feel if you didn't eat that stuff.
You know what? You wonder where Chris gets all this energy from and stuff. He eats so clean. Like, his reward day, this is what made me so mad. His reward day was tortilla chips or frozen yogurt for one day.
I know.
I reward myself. I get a 2-day reward day, and it's gross food. And
I'm like, I never thought of tortilla chips as being like, oh, my cheat day, I'm going to have some tortilla chips.
And frozen yogurt, I think I'm doing something good. I'm like, I'm being good.
It's not a horrible
That made
dessert.
me so mad when Chris said that. I was like, oh, that's a reward. Yeah.
I know.
Come on, Chris, give us a break. Like, he has to eat super clean.
He must. Because then I was watching him eat these, like, you know, the hash browns and all that, and I get that it's super greasy, and after a while you don't feel well. Yeah. But you got to admit, fries are good. Chicken nuggets, they taste good. You have to have it. You have to enjoy that for a small
You know what's so funny? You said
minute.
that. I haven't had McDonald's in like a good year or two.
I don't think I have either.
And I had a small fry like last week, and it did not taste good.
It didn't?
It didn't.
That's
and usually
odd.
I say that McDonald's has like crack fries. And then, after you get off that stuff, once you wean yourself off of it, it's like you don't need it, but your body craves it once you're eating it constantly.
Yeah.
I like what he said about the candy. Like, if you eat candy, you get these cravings.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as you stop, you don't get these intense cravings.
That's why I think one of the best ways to start to eat healthy is like to kind of, you have to get your body off sugar for a little while. Once you stop eating sugar, you want it less. And you're more sensitive to those tastes. Or when you cut out salt, then you try something, you could just taste the salt in it. Like, it's so interesting. We could talk about it forever. But we probably should really get more into her first phase. I think her first goal was to lose 100, was to lose like 100 pounds.
Yes, for the first phase.
Yeah, lose 105 pounds in the first 90 days. So she's doing rowing in the pool. We see her battling with, you know, the foods, but I think she seems to get herself on track. We also bring in Drew Manning. Do you remember that? The trainer who kind of put himself through that.
Amazing.
Eat everything he wants.
He showed that you can eat 6 months. You can make your body the way it wants by eating whatever you want. And he got fat, and then he lost all the weight in 6 months.
So it was from year to year. He ended up looking the same when he started and when he ended.
I think he looked a little bit better afterwards.
In the center, he was pudgy.
And
it
he
was
said
really
he felt self-conscious. And I guess people can go on his website, Manning.com.
Well, you can look him up on Bing and search Drew Manning. And he's a trainer, and so he talks about his experience, and he talks about, one of the biggest things was that it affected his confidence. And I feel like when you don't have strong confidence, that affects everything else in your life. It affects your relationships, like he said, with his wife, or how you operate at work, you know, your friendships.
I mean,
everything
he's a trainer, so I mean, of course his job was probably like, he probably felt the most subconscious at his job, you know, in the gym. And
so then we see her at her 90-day weigh-in. Her goal was to be at 309, and she weighs in at 306.
I mean, she was amazing. We see this with most of our contestants. They are really fighting in first phase one. And the pounds just easily melt off in the first phase. So, I mean, that was a lot at first.
I believed it. When I saw like her before and after picture, before they even showed us her number, I was like, I'm sure she lost it. I think you could see it.
And the beginning, I was like, could she lose 105? Because she's so young and she's small, too. I was like, would that be possible? But, I mean, she did.
But that's the thing. She's so small that 414 pounds, that is too much. I feel like 100 pounds was nothing for her. I think it fell right off. So then she goes into this next phase, and she has a goal of losing 60 pounds. Well, the second phase tends to be really difficult for a lot of people. And we see her really start to struggle with food. And this is where we start to see her experience the symptoms of bulimia, where she's not running to fast food, you know, which she used to, but she's overeating.
And I love that, because dealing with a food addiction doesn't just mean you're eating bad. It's overeating, even on healthy foods.
Everything.
Like, she was eating the right stuff, but just her portion sizes were larger. And
she was eating maybe when she didn't really, she wasn't hungry. Maybe she was just having a hard time and she turned to food for comfort. And so she was just binging, overeating. And then the only way she felt like she could really
rectify it, the situation, was to purge it.
Right, which was interesting because then we found out later that she talks about how she also was restricting her calories so much. And so it was like she would restrict it, and that would lead her to binge.
Because your body's saying, I'm hungry, I'm starving.
So you just eat everything in sight, and you overeat, and then you're stuffed, and then you feel nasty and guilty, so she purged. Yeah, that was hard to see. So that was kind of really all we saw of her in phase 2, and we see her go to Whistler, Canada.
What she promised her, a little snowboarding trip. That was awesome. He always has the most awesome rewards for them.
Yeah, he does. And it's so awesome for him because he gets to go. It's really like, where do I want to go?
It's like if you're on the show, you're like, where's the most amazing? I probably would have picked Paris.
I know.
I probably would have done Paris.
Well, he already did that, remember?
Yeah,
the
I know. And I would have picked one, anywhere that was just...
He gets to go everywhere. That's what's making, he's like, I'm going to send you snowboarding because that means I get to go too. Yeah,
I'm sure he's like, hey, pick this today. I feel like going to the slopes. He's been snowboarding like 3 times.
Somehow talks him into what they want to do.
What do you want to do?
That'd be amazing.
You said something about snowboarding back.
I know you did. that would be really funny if you really did that. So we see her at her weigh-in, and this is where she admits to Chris that she's been having the struggle with food, but she doesn't want to talk to him about it.
I mean, you're a young girl. I think at this point she looks up to Chris. And she definitely sees him like as, a staple in her life. And it's hard to admit. And she couldn't vocalize it at all. She couldn't like come out and say it. And he kind of knew what was going on. But she's like, I just can't do this with you. I can't talk to you about it.
But I thought it was interesting. So he offers his wife Heidi and says, she's had her own struggles with eating disorders. She'd be a great person to talk to. And it was funny because then when she goes in and sees Heidi, she goes, hi, I've missed you. And I was like, what? And then it brings me back to where they all start in boot camp.
Oh, okay.
And I think maybe she probably, I heard her say, I miss you. I'm like,
I thought that was her first time meeting Heidi.
But I'm thinking, well, you know how we heard from like the past contestants that they all go to boot camp together.
Before? Okay.
I'm sure she probably met her then. I don't know, just a guess.
At first, it seemed like I didn't think she knew her at first, and then
I didn't either. But then she said, "I miss you," and I was like, "Oh, interesting."
She really loved Heidi.
Either way, yeah, she did.
Chris got so jealous of their little.
But I thought it was funny. So like, she sat down with Heidi and talked to Heidi while Chris was sitting right there.
I was like, "Can Chris leave?"
Like, I thought we didn't want to talk to him about this. I thought this was supposed to be just a girl thing. Either way, she spoke open about it. She spoke really freely to Heidi, and Heidi had some, really encouraging words for her, and just some really great support and advice. And
it's amazing that Heidi came out to tell her story, because Heidi struggled with it since she was 15. To 22. So, I mean, that's the age range of Alyssa.
Yeah.
And for Heidi to go through, imagine, she said she had no one to tell at 15 years old to be struggling to 22. That's a whole life change. Like, you're 15 and you're 20, you're struggling with bulimia and no one to turn to. That's
a long time to go through that.
That's a very long time, and not have anyone really to talk to about it and the darkness that you feel.
Yeah, so she was kind of the perfect example, I think, that Alyssa needed. And we see Alyssa weigh in, actually, but she doesn't see the number, which I thought was really smart on Chris's part. He said, you know what, this next goal, I don't want you to be concentrated on the numbers. And I think that was smart, partly because I believe that people that go through eating disorders, they can be so fixated on a number. And they just want to hit a number. They want to see their weight coming off.
Their personalities are usually the type. Where it's like, I need to be perfect. You start developing that, like, what's the number? Like, what can I do to get there? So it's good that he did that. It was very smart.
Yeah, so she had weighed in. Her goal was to be at 246, but she was at 266. So she still lost 40 pounds. She didn't lose the 60, but she lost the 40. And I thought it was just smart that his next goal for her was to kind of create balance.
He said, the goal was 6. And 6 was to just eat healthy for 6 days and work out and do the right things for 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Which So smart of Chris.
It is, because that's where, and you know what? That's a lifetime goal. That's a lifetime focus. We can't always be so fixated on being a certain weight. You know, our body's going to change as we get older. I think if you could focus on each day, eating what you need to eat and getting in your activity and take it day by day, that's
what
the
it
best
is.
goal.
Taking it day by day, not, well, what can I look like if I, starve myself for a week?
Yeah.
That's not going to help.
Yeah. So before we continue on, we actually have Alyssa on the phone. Alyssa, are you there? Hi. How are you?
Hi, Alyssa.
I'm doing great.
Oh, good. We're so happy to hear from you. Thank you so much for reaching out and telling us you wanted to come on. We are so excited to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Good. So right now, I don't know if you were watching the show, but Lina and I were actually just talking about your phase 2 and how at the end of your phase 2, we saw you, weigh in with Chris, and this was a big moment for you when you actually sat down and talked to Heidi about bulimia. And tell us how that was for you.
And how it impacted, your journey, this part of your journey.
Sitting down and finally reaching out for help. As easy as it sounds to reach out for help when you have an eating disorder, there's so much shame that comes with it that you feel personally. And I was ashamed of what I was doing. And, I love Heidi and Chris so much, and I didn't want them to be disappointed in me. And so reaching out to Heidi for the first time, it was a scary thing to do. It was very scary. But at the end of the day, I'm so happy that I opened up to her, because it led me to, a recovery that wouldn't have been possible without it.
Did you actually go to the Shades of Hope and go through with the program for the 6 weeks?
Yeah, and I had all year, and this has been kind of a question that I've been answering online all day today. All year, actually, I had an eating disorder specialist as a therapist.
Oh, wow.
She just happened to start off as my regular therapist, and helping me deal with, going through, the death of my mom and, everything. And so it just happened to be that once she was actually the very first person that I reached out to as my therapist, and then it was Heidi. And so I was in a place where I knew that I had a problem, but I wanted to change and I wanted help. And so she's absolutely incredible. And so when I was in the midst of my eating disorder at first during the show, because I didn't wait for treatment until the end of the show, I started doing progressive treatment with her. And there was weeks where I would, talk to her 3 or 4 times a week, because I just needed help. I needed that, that support.
That's interesting that you said that, because one of my first questions for you was going to be, what in this episode, when you watched it back, what, did we not see that might have been a big part of your journey? And I would imagine that would have been that's, part of your whole year. To us, it looked like, you started suffering with these issues in phase 2. And in reality, I mean, obviously, you've suffered from overeating, and that in itself is an eating disorder for sure. But the whole binging and purging seemed like it was something that was more new to you. Yeah. When in reality, it seems like you throughout that course of the year, you are already working on it, I guess, with a therapist, right?
Right. Well, the therapist, even though she's an eating disorder specialist, she started off as just a therapist for me. And so we would talk about the death of my mom and, everything, all aspects of my life she would help me work through. And the eating disorder started, and they touched on it a little bit in the show. The eating disorder for me started with, I felt so much pressure to hit a number every week because, you see in phase 1, I lose 108 pounds and I'm so happy about it. And then going into phase 2, the weight isn't coming off as quickly. And so I'm feeling pressure that I need to pull this big number. Like, I started off as the heaviest girl this season, and I need to pull this big number. So it actually started off with, for me, it's all mathematical. So eating a certain number of calories, and I'm burning a certain number of calories. At the end of the week, statistically, I should be seeing a certain number of weight loss on the scale. And I wasn't. And I was getting so angry at myself. And so the eating disorder actually started with me starting to restrict my calories.
Right.
So, I was eating At that point, I was eating 1,200 calories, which when you're working out that much is already starvation mode. And then I start cutting my calories back to 800. And then, well, I'm still not dropping big enough numbers. And so I drop back to 600, 400. And then I start going, and this is all within a couple of week time frame. But then I start going periods of, up to 72 hours without eating anything. Just living off of caffeine and water, artificial energy, just to keep myself going to get that workout in. And then, which then led up to me, because my body was starving so much, it was so random to me binging, and I felt out of control. I felt so terrible about myself. I was like, I just had so much self-control that I could starve myself, and I just binged, which then led me to purge. And so it was just this terrible cycle. It wasn't just like the binging and the purging. It was just this terrible cycle of an eating disorder. And yes, I was an overeater before, so just this terrible cycle of eating disorder that kind of just came with the process of, losing the weight.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with you. When I first moved to LA, I went through that, trying to cut the calories and
to create more of a deficit.
And thinking that I want to see these numbers. If I work out more, eat less, and it wasn't helping. It was just making it worse, and it made me hungry. And the starvation, you start binge eating.
And then your body starts to store fat, which I'm sure is something you've learned throughout your journey. But when you starve yourself, it slows your metabolism, which makes you store fat, and then it slows your weight loss. So I think,
and it messes
when you're
with you mentally as well.
Exactly. When you're not educated, you can really do some damage. You think you're doing something that's going to create this great weight loss, but you're really only harming yourself. And I think, this is the common struggle that we see on this show.
You see the statistics.
Statistics.
Thank you. With 24 million people who are, struggle with a eating disorder and don't say anything about it. So for you to come out on national TV and, voice it, it's applaud to you. I'm sure people come up to you and say, thank you. I have a daughter or a mother or a sister who's struggling with the same thing, who didn't come out, or maybe it was too late for them, because people do die from this and people don't realize how serious it is. So it's definitely.
Yeah. And I was thankful. It took a lot for me. I probably fought the battle of, at first the restriction, and then the restriction was probably like a 2 or 3 weeks. And then when I binged and purged for the first time, I actually only did it probably 3 or 4 times before it was like, the first time I was like, I don't have a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. The second time was like, oh, this is only the second time I've done it. There's nothing wrong with me. And then it was like the third and or fourth time where it hit me, and I was like, I have a problem. I need help. And I needed help, and I wanted help. And it was really that wanting help that pushed me to come out and ask for it.
That's smart, because I think, too, a lot of people don't admit that they have an eating disorder. Like, they're in denial.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's part of the battle. So, again, just, that took a lot of courage, not just for you to come on the show, but then to just experience all of this.
Be open.
On camera.
Be totally open with.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like it wouldn't be an easy thing to do.
No.
But I'm sure you've gotten a ton of positive feedback since your episode aired last night.
Yes, I have. And it's so, all of like my fans and my friends and my family are incredible, and they're so supportive. And it's awesome actually getting messages on, my fan page on Facebook saying, I'm struggling with an eating disorder too, and being able to just, because sometimes it's just being able to voice to anybody, like, I have an eating disorder, and just hearing that comfort in, it's okay. Like, you can find help. You can change this. And so I've actually really enjoyed responding to some of those messages because everybody's worth it. You're worth being able to love yourself, and you're worth not having to live with an eating disorder for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So like Lina said, because I know at the very end they talked about you going into this 6-week program, and actually at first when it was offered to you by Heidi and Chris, you didn't feel like you really needed it. Like, you felt like you were in a good place. And then we saw that 2 weeks afterwards, you ended up checking in. So have you already completed that 6-week program?
Yeah. And actually, there's a lot to that wasn't shown. So this is a little bit of behind the scenes. So I was actually having a battle within myself because I had, for the first 3 months of the show, you cannot have a job.
Right.
And so my job would not give me a leave of absence, so I had to leave. But they were a great employer when I was there. And so I decided I wanted to change my life forever, and if I was going to do this, I was going to do it 100%. And so I decided not to work that year. So the background to that is, they did catch me, saying that I didn't feel like I needed to go at the time. But it was more of a battle within my brain because I knew that I needed, to get back to work. I had been buying, all my own athletic clothing and I had credit card debt and I needed an income to be able to, live and support myself because I had a savings that I had completely diminished and then had, started switching over to my credit card. And so that was actually the true battle within myself to not wanting to go to the treatment center immediately. And as you hear, I was thankful that they left it on the table for me because, it was truly sprung on me that night. So I had no idea whatsoever. And so it was also just something that I didn't want to make a rash decision. I didn't want to say no, but I didn't want to say yes because I knew that it was a decision. It was a big decision. So I knew that I needed to at least sleep on it and think about it and, talk to my therapist and talk to my friends and family and my loved ones and just kind of totally process what had happened.
Awesome. Well, so now how have you been doing? I mean, one of my thoughts would be, how has your daily life changed? You want to go ahead, Lina.
We were also interested. You had met up with one of the other contestants from season 2.
Oh yes, Jackie.
Jackie from season 2. Jackie McCoy. Did y'all meet in the boot camp prior to? Was she in your boot camp, or did they bring her back to come to your boot camp? How did y'all end up meeting prior to?
Yeah. A little bit of the backstory, too, behind the scenes is that, so obviously, Chris, it's difficult for Chris to spend time with us at our own home. And so they actually set up a boot camp house, is what they call it, out in Arizona. And Jackie was kind of our mentor there. And she, at least she was a mentor for me. So essentially, she would hike with us every morning. She would go to the gym with us every day. And everybody wasn't at the boot camp house for, it might have been a week, it might have been 2 weeks, but I love the hike so much that I spent a lot of time in Arizona, and that's where my therapist was based out of. So instead of having to do FaceTime sessions with her, I would be able to see her in person. And so I just got this connection with Jackie that's like no other friendship I've ever had. She truly, and I say this at the end of my episode, but she taught me how to love myself. She's just one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met.
Did you see her episode prior to you going on to the show?
Her episode actually aired while I was at the boot camp house last July.
Funny. How funny.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, that makes sense because right now they're taping episodes or season 4. So that kind of makes sense that there's some overlap a little bit. And we have to give Jackie a shout out because she's actually the one that contacted us at AfterBuzz and wanted you to come on the show. So seems like she is still a very strong support system in your life and wants to see nothing but success for you.
Absolutely. At least once a week, you'll look through my phone and you'll see, Jackie McCoy. And then you'll look at the time frame and it's at least 2 hours because she really is, she was my rock. And over the course of the year, I was literally with her for at least 9 months of the year. It was on and off, and I was at home, and I was in Arizona, and I was here, and I was there. But Jackie, not only Jackie herself, but her family, her husband, her sister, her mother, her dad, they took me in as their own, and they loved me, and they were there for me, and they would go and they would work out with me, and they're just the most incredible support system I could have had.
That is so awesome. Well, you guys all need to come out and visit us in LA. And then you could come and sit in studio. That would actually be awesome. But before we let you go, I do want to get back to that last question I have, just because, there's a lot of people that watch the show. There's a lot of people that leave us comments and talk about their own struggles with weight loss, with eating disorders as well. So getting back to where you are now in your journey, how has your daily life changed? You know, we were talking about your previous job. It was a desk job. You're sitting there for hours. How have you, since the show, how have you kind of changed your daily life? Like, how have you implemented, healthy habits? And the second part to that would be, what would be your advice to, all these people that have watched your journey and that are continuing to watch the AfterBuzz podcast?
And you're like pretty young, so it's like a lot of people your age are definitely looking up to you and seeing like, I can change my life too. At this age.
But sometimes we don't all have the resources or don't have the knowledge to get started. So it's just, what is your key advice that you have?
My key advice, and my lifestyle has changed 180 degrees. Yeah. It's complete opposite of what it used to be. And so I actually, every 6 days a week still, back to that 6 days a week, 6 days a week, I wake up and I work out. I like to call, I like to say that I train dirty because I like quick and dirty workouts. So I have a rotation of workouts that I do, and they're quick and dirty. They're 60 minutes or less a day. Nice. And that helps me, maintain my weight. And I have a Concept 2 rower, and so I row every day, and I run a 5K every day, and I do squats, push-ups, and planks, and that's my quick and dirty workout. And now the intensity level, that switches between days because you don't want to do the same intensity every day so your body doesn't get used to it. But and so I wake up and I start with that workout because it gets you going and gets me energized. And I would have never thought that before, like I'd be laying in bed and it's like 10 a.m. like, I need to get up. Like I need to do something with my life a year ago. But now I know after, did I struggle at first? And I was the resident puker. And because my body was getting used to detoxing from junk food. But once you get into the groove of it, you feel so good when you're done. Yeah. So starting off with a great morning workout, even if it's just, you take a 20-minute walk, you just get your body going and you drink. The first thing I do, too, is I drink at least 20 ounces of water. Wow. You want to wake your body up and you want to get going. And then after that point, I jump in the shower and I start my day. And I'm just a very active person now. Like, I love hiking and going on walking trails, and I love zoos. Like, it's like my lifelong dream to, like, visit every zoo in America. And so just doing activities, I know, it's so weird. Doing activities that keep me active instead. I love bike riding. Absolutely love it. Jackie and I, when we were in Florida, we would bike up to 35, 40 miles a day sometimes.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a lot.
And just talk and like have, these amazing conversations while we were biking and exercising. And so it's just changing your lifestyle. Once you start feeling good about your exercise and, you realize that it is making you feel better, which can take some time. I'm not going to lie. It took me, probably a full 30 days to actually enjoy working out. But, once you enjoy that, it's just taking, one step at a time and, just making small changes instead of, you're standing in line at the grocery store. Just step back and forth. Like, who cares who's watching? Yeah, like, it doesn't matter. Like, just little things like that can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, and I think, like what you're saying, it takes you a while to build up that love for exercise. But I think once you do, it's kind of like you have your own little addiction to it in a sense. I mean, at first it was
a positive addiction.
Exactly. It's kind of, you love that feeling. And then when you maybe skip a few days and you're not used to that, you notice the feeling and you don't like it. So
your body doesn't like it either. It's like, so let's go get up. Let's go get up and do something.
Exactly. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for calling us and for sharing your story, of course, on last night's episode and calling in and just talking further about it, because like I said, there's so many people that watch this show that look up to you, that are in the same age range as you, that feel like maybe there's nobody that they can turn to about an eating disorder. People are afraid to talk to their parents at times, and if they have friends that aren't going through the same thing.
They think they're going to ridicule them. And
you know, so just hearing your story has probably been such a comfort to so many people. So thank you so much for coming on and for talking with us.
Alyssa, before you get off the phone with us, where can they find you on Twitter and Facebook?
It's actually all of my social media is under my first and last name. So Alyssa, and then my last name is Stommen. And so you can, all my handles are just at Alyssa Stommen. So my Facebook fan page is Alyssa Stommen, and the show used to be called Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition.
Yeah.
So that's how you'll find me. But then Instagram too, just at Alyssa Stommen. So.
Awesome. Well, we will continue to stay in touch with you, and best of luck in everything that you do, and we wish you nothing but continued success. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, have a great night.
You too.
Bye, girlie. And before we get into our phase 3, I want to remind everybody to go to cerealbuddies.com, download it on Amazon or iTunes. It's a couple of bucks, $4 or $5.
Yes.
And what it does is put money back into these studios so we can provide these amazing shows. You like my announcer voice?
I do like
these amazing shows like Extreme Weight Loss or like Twisted, which I'm doing later at 8. Shameless Pummy. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Shameless.
okay. That's okay.
So who's in it? Artie Lane, Kathy Griffith from Two Broke Girls, which I just saw Two Broke Girls. That's an amazing show.
It's funny.
Did you seen it?
Yes, I have seen it. I've met Beth Bears. She's actually great. I love her.
She seems fun.
She is.
Yeah, so go download it.
Yeah, it's a funny movie. So and you know, while you could go to cerealbuddies.com, you can also go to iTunes and download it. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to us as well.
And rate us and tell us what you
comment.
think. Yeah, we read them.
We do.
We want to know what you think.
Yeah, it's helpful, right?
Yes.
And it keeps us doing what we love to do. And keeps viewers like you. So
keeps viewers like you. Like you.
Exactly. We love talking to you. Let's get into the final phase. We don't have a lot of time, but you know, she goes into this last phase still kind of with the same goal of, or in phase 3, I should say, with the same goal of just focusing on eating correctly and not focusing so much on the actual number.
Which I'm glad that's something that she talked about. That's what got her into her, you know, the bulimia and purging and binging.
And I feel like in this phase, you know, she comes out of talking to Heidi and she just has this newfound energy. She goes back to Arizona with Heidi and Chris and is working out with them there. They're showing her, you know, some good recipes that she can eat right and enjoy what she's eating. She doesn't need to starve herself.
Which is this our first time here that they offer one of the contestants to come back in phase 3?
No, we had no, there was another one that went back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
do that.
Yeah. Jamae's balls. Jane, she went back.
Jamae's balls.
Oh yeah, you missed that whole one. It was amazing.
I'm glad
she
you
went
have
back.
a name for it.
Oh, she has Jamae's balls. That is her name, and we call me LeMay's balls, and you could be LeMay's balls too.
Oh yay!
But now we're back.
I want to be that.
You do. You want to be LeMay's balls. Anyway, so she goes back to Arizona, and we see her in her journey there. And I feel like she just has this newfound energy. So she gets on the scale at her 9-month weigh-in, where she previously weighed in at 266, and she weighs in at 216. So she loses 50 pounds in this weight loss, which Chris mentions is the most that any woman has lost in phase 3 before. So, you know, she made some really great progress.
You could see the weight just falling off of her. I was like, she's looking cute in her little workout
she's looking
clothes.
good.
I was like, I didn't get me some was that Under Armour?
I don't know, but it was cute. She was all stylish.
I know, she was very stylish.
So then she's going into phase 4, and this is where we see them go visit Dr. Smiles, whatever his name is.
I'm sorry, but he creeps me out.
He does kind of. But this is also the first time that we see somebody go in and weigh in where seems like he's going to tell her she's a great candidate. She looks like she's a great candidate.
She would be the perfect candidate. Even Chris
she looks like she would be a better candidate than any of the past contestants we've ever had.
I think, but you know what? I kept trying to listen to what he was saying. She would be what he kept calling it a more.
Yeah.
A better candidate, like something that was
an
better.
Optimal.
Yeah, optimal.
She wasn't an optimal candidate just yet. He wanted to see her hit either 200 or below.
Yeah.
So she was heartbroken. She was devastated. She cried, and
that was real.
It was so real.
Like, I've worked so hard.
And then you see all these other contestants that come before you. I shouldn't even call them contestants, but all these other people that have gone through this journey before her that always get this yes.
But you know what? I think I see what the doctor was doing. He wanted, because of her body fat, he wanted to be able to bridge the middle of her stomach in. So I think there was something he had in mind that was going to make it better.
Well, of course. So that's, you know, this is what makes him a doctor. He's going to do, and Chris tried to stress it.
For a bajillion years.
He just learned how to use a knife, whatever. You know, Chris tried to stress to Alyssa that, no, he is doing what's best for you, and you should want that too. Yeah. I know that you want this right now. You want these immediate results. You want to get rid of it. And she kept saying how she wasn't going to feel good at her finale. And he's like, why? Because you've lost 200 pounds? Like, that's not enough for you?
I mean, I could get where she was coming from. You're standing up there, and you have all this extra skin on you, and you want it. But
you want it off.
I think,
but you know what? The same way that you have to look at your weight loss journey is how you have to look at that. You can't have everything immediately. It's a process. And look, she's already at that point lost 198 pounds at this point in the journey, 48% of her body weight. What is 16 pounds?
Really,
you know? Come on, you could hit that in 2 weeks.
She could do that and just...
I can understand the frustration, I think, because she wasn't expecting it. Yeah. But I think she was able to kind of just bring herself right back around and get back in the game and let it go. So
it was nice to hear from her saying that there's a lot, the surprises are real. It's not something like they're okay, let's film this in.
Like they tell her beforehand.
Surprise. It's nice to hear that these are actual surprises coming from the contestants. So they're being shocked as well as we are at the same time we are.
Yeah, so then again, going into her final phase, Chris still doesn't want her to focus on the number. He really just wants her to find balance, which I think is literally the answer to everything. Anybody's struggle with life and weight loss and whatever it is finding a balance. Yeah. It's just finding a balance. And so that needed to be her focus. Yeah, not focusing on the number, like just making sure you're moving in the right direction and you're implementing these healthy habits. So it was in this final phase that we see her hang out with Jackie, who we talked about. And she seems to have such a strong bond, which obviously, you know, she mentioned to us. And that's something that you need, I think, in these kinds of journeys in your life, is that support system, and she really found it in Jackie. So it was great to see them in the final phase.
They're dynamic because she goes to Arizona to hang out with her, what she told us about.
Yeah, and they, you know, Jackie was so supportive and encouraging to her, like, you're gonna kill it when you go to that final weigh-in. And I felt like she was really helping to get her more excited for it, which is what she needed. So getting to the final weigh-in, she gets there, she's looking all hot in her like red dress with a cute cardigan.
I kept saying throughout, I was like, she looks so cute. She's such a cute girl. It's like she's getting that mean girl attitude at one point. She was like...
She was so cute. So she gets on there and she weighs in her final weigh-in at 210. So she loses 6 pounds in the final phase, which isn't a ton, but you know what? Like Chris always says, you're moving in the right direction, and that's all that matters, because this is going to be a lifelong process. It's not about immediate results. So,
and that's what she said. She's like, I'm not done. This is not the end of my journey. I'm going to still keep going. So.
And it wasn't. And Chris and Heidi, like we mentioned when we were talking with her, they recommended she go to the Shades of Hope, which is a 6-week program for people that suffer with eating disorders. And like she said at the time, or what they showed her, you know, saying was that she didn't think she needed to, when in reality, she had a lot of other life stresses, like, no, I need to go back to work.
Which is, I thought, I mean, I assumed that her job let her have a leave, like just let her take.
Most people don't.
That because it's such a huge...
It's such a great thing, but you know what? A company is a company, and they are paying you for something.
It's nice to hear they're true.
But you know what? You move on, and this is more important. So, so that's, you know, where we left off with Alyssa's story, and it was so great to talk to her today.
Really was.
Again, thank you to Alyssa who called in, just to hear that she's doing well. It sounds like she's doing really well. She's implemented a new daily routine, and that, I think, is the goal of all of this. Is she's kind of created.
She's on the right track, so I definitely see success.
Yes,
for Alyssa.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram at @low_Baez, or on Instagram at @lowbaez. And Lina?
And you can follow me at just Lina Green on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.